Hey folks, it's Deb from Queerstrology. I hope everybody's doing well out there. So yesterday I posted what you see here behind me, which is the compatibility, what we call in astrology a synastry chart of Taylor and Travis, what I have now been calling trailer. Um, but up behind me you can see their synastry chart. And I wanted to go through it and also answer anybody's questions that they may have about it. I know some people think that they're fairly compatible, and some people are like, oh, I don't see it. And I'm kind of on the I don't see it area so much, just because I am. I just, it's not because of the squares necessarily. It's just because squares, while they do mean in conflict, folks, it doesn't mean that that is a bad thing. Because sometimes well-placed squares can really enhance a relationship in a lot of ways. So I have, this is their synastry chart behind me, but I will be going through their individual charts as well as each of the aspects and discussing them and my findings. Okay. So, like I said, a synastry chart is what's behind me here. You can see this white edge is Taylor's chart, and this colored center is Travis's chart. Okay. So, with these two charts here, you can see there's a lot of similar, just as my first look, you can see there's a lot of similar placements. They were born in the same year, okay, and only a couple months apart. So they have a lot of a similar placements. You can see their Jupiters are close. You can also see right here their Saturns are close, okay. Now those are planets that take a little bit longer to go through signs, 2 years, 2.5 years. So that makes sense that those are the same. So when we're looking at synastry in general, some people are going, well, is she a Scorpio rising? Is she Capricorn rising? Is she, because we don't have 100% her birth time. But according to what I have found and a lot of my sources, she is a Scorpio rising. Okay. Um, Taylor, I'm talking about. We don't know Travis's birth time. But the thing about it is in synastry, we don't necessarily need their rising and their MC. That's what we would get if we had the birth time, okay? Because that establishes the houses in a chart. So let me show you something really quick. Let me go to both of their charts here. So I have them up behind me, okay? So you can see, because we do happen to have Taylor's chart, okay? And we do happen to have her rising sign. We know her somewhat of her birth time, right? That's how we get the houses that you can see in her chart, okay? But on this side, you can see Travis, we don't have his birth time. So we don't know his houses. Now, when it comes to synastry and what we're looking at when we see the synastry, really what we're doing is we're taking this chart and we're laying them on top of each other, and then we align them by the signs. Okay. So while it's nice to know your rising signs for some of these occasions, okay, it's not necessary in synastry. We can see a lot without knowing the houses of both parties, let alone just one. Okay. So that being said, there are things that we can observe about each individual. And I want to talk about that for a moment. Okay. Now, when it comes to Travis, we're going to talk about Travis's chart first for just a second. And let's talk about his big three. He is a Libra sun. Okay. Libras, as we know, they're a lot about aesthetic balance. Okay. So they're looking to find balance within their ego. Uh, which is interesting. He's a very popular tight end for a football team, for the Kansas City Chiefs, if you don't know. And tight ends, they're a little bit stronger than wide receivers, so to speak. They're not the super fast guys to catch the ball, but he's very successful. So he's had quite the successful career. His ego is probably filled by when he is successful in his athletic achievements. Okay, but we can talk more about that because we don't know what his MC is. All right. Now, that being said, he has a Sagittarius moon. So you can see the sun is right here, his moon is right here. Okay. So having a Sagittarius moon is interesting because, as we know, Taylor has a Sagittarius sun. So when we look at their synastry chart, they should be fairly close together. Um, and they're not quite conjunct, I don't think, but they are very close together. So That being said, it gives him fiery emotions and experienced emotions versus her experienced ego. So he may be looking for balance in his ego, where Taylor is looking to gain more experience in her ego, and his emotions can understand that and appreciate it. So he would help her ego with emotional support, if that makes sense. Now, when we go down to his Mercury, okay, because we don't have his big three, we don't know his rising sign, we don't have his birth time. But when we go down to Mercury, this is how people communicate, okay? So just about the signs we're talking about now, and then we'll go to their synastry and read it. But you can see that he's a Virgo Mercury. Now, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Okay. It's both, so is Gemini. And Virgo tends to be more of the internal communicator, and Mercury is the planet of communication. All right. This means that his kind of how he communicates is really detailed. It has some structure to it. Now, interestingly, Taylor has a Capricorn, which is also an earth sign. She has a Capricorn Mercury. So she's going to be very efficient and effective with how she communicates, which he won't mind so much. In fact, if he needs more details, he can ask her for them. So when it comes to communication, I see them being able to communicate quite well, almost mechanically, for lack of a better term. I don't mean that to be unromantic, but it can be, you know. So now when we go to Venus, let's look at their Venus signs. This is where it starts to get a little more interesting, because for him, he has Scorpio as a Venus. As a fellow Venus and Scorpio, we don't trust very many people. It's hard for us to be vulnerable unless somebody is very honest with us and upfront. The good thing about that is Sagittarius suns tend to be like that. Okay. So Scorpio Venuses will be drawn to people who have some intelligence to them, but who are also very upfront with what they have to say. Because for Scorpio, they'd rather you be upfront and even hurt their feelings sometimes than lie to them. So when it comes to Venus or his vulnerability, he does not want to be lied to. He wants to know what's going on. Also, speaking, I am now open in my relationship, and I am a I'm non-monogamous, and maybe even poly in some cases, but for the most part, non-monogamous. But before I was, it's hard for Scorpios to be faith for Scorpio Venuses. Sorry about that. So my apologies for that. I had a phone call, but now I put it on do not disturb, so we shouldn't get interrupted again. I apologize. So what I was talking about is with the Scorpio Venuses, they tend to feel like people are cheating on them, or they could be cheaters as well. So just note that, okay? Now that doesn't mean every Scorpio Venus is a cheater. I'm not saying that. I'm just drawing out a tendency, okay? Now, that being said, we also have Taylor, who has Aquarius in Venus. Aquarius is an air sign, folks. So it looks for intelligence for its surrender. She wants something that's unique and different. I don't know how unique and different he's going to be. In fact, the fact that he's a Libra kind of indicates that he might not be that different. So she might find it difficult to surrender to him, because she's going to be looking for something that's a little different. Okay. Now, when it comes to Mars, you can see his Mars is in Libra. It's right up here where you can see it right there. Sorry, where's his Mars? They're so tiny on my screen. Oh, it's right here. It's right next to his sun, right there. Okay. And so for Taylor, Taylor's Mars is in Scorpio right here in her first house. So it has a lot to do with herself, right? Now, Mars in Queerstrology is your dominant energy. It's what you want to be in control of. So for him, he wants to be in control of his aesthetic and the balance in his life and how things are progressing. Okay. He's very driven to make sure that his ego is in check and that he is doing what he wants to do. All right. Now, that being said, for Taylor, Taylor's happens to be in Scorpio. Okay. Now, interestingly, we'll talk about the fact that her Scorpio Mars and his Venus Scorpio are in conjunction. We'll talk about what that means, okay, in their synastry. Right now, I'm talking about their individual charts. So for Mars and Scorpio, this means that she wants to be in control of the emotional investigation, okay? She is driven to understand emotions. I mean, we see it when she writes her songs, right? She has a lot of emotional drive to what she's trying to say. So that makes sense. Now let's go to the two social planets, okay? The two social planets are Jupiter and Saturn, and you can see both of them are in Jupiter, or their Jupiter is in Cancer, and their Saturn is in Capricorn, which is obviously it's the native to that. Okay. So what I mean is Saturn is the native ruling planet for Capricorn. So having your Saturn in Capricorn gives you a very distinct ambition to try to get the results that you really are looking for in very efficient and effective way. All right. That being said, their Jupiter, so how they expand is the opposite sign in Cancer. So it's very in-depth emotional expansion. So they're trying to be very efficient with the results they get, and how they expand is connecting emotionally. Okay. So that all being said, let's go back to their chart, for their synastry chart as a whole for a second. So this is what it looks like as a whole. And you can see, again, this is taking Taylor's chart, which is on the outside edge where the white stripe is. And then you can see it's kind of like a peachy, pinky shaded area. That is Travis's chart. So when we look at Trailer's chart here, we can see that there are certain aspects that are coming up. Aspects are these lines, okay? So in astrology, when we're talking about compatibility, but especially even in every single chart, okay, you have the signs which represent a kind of personality, like what you think about when you read a horoscope, right? And then we have houses, which we're not going to really concentrate too much on in this case because it's synastry, and in synastry, we line you up by the signs, okay? It doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It does, but we don't need it for this one. And we don't have Travis's birth time. And Taylor's is somewhat, we think it's a Scorpio, but could be Capricorn. We don't know for sure, okay? So all that being said, we have those things. Then we have these are focal points, okay? So there's thousands and thousands of placements that you can have in a chart, but we concentrate on the largest ones within our solar system because they have the most power to affect us, okay? The sun affects the seasons, the moon affects the tides here on Earth. We're made of the same stuff. So obviously we have kind of particle entanglements with these different planets. So they bring a different focus. Whatever sign they're under, it's that personality. And if you happen to know the house, that's the part of your life that will be affected. Okay. So those things being said, you have the personality, where something happens, the focus, and then the aspects are these lines, okay? They show us the relationship between focus points. So in your own birth chart, you have aspects, and it shows your internal, like how your body is dealing with different focus points, okay? And how they get along or may not get along, all right? So the same thing goes for synastry, except for now we're putting one person's placements against the other person's placements and seeing what kind of aspects come up. All right. So there's 5 major aspects that we talk about. I'm going to break each of them down individually on their chart here. Okay. So the first one that we talk about, and this is also in your birth chart as well, but we're talking about synastry here. If you are interested in getting a reading from me, I don't just read celebrities and reality stars. I can read you too. Please go to the link in my bio. It's a Linktree link, and it'll take you, there's options to get free charts that you may need, but also options to get different kinds of readings from me, including a synastry breakdown. Some people ask me, can you do a synastry breakdown between me and Taylor? Yeah, I can. I have Taylor's birth information, okay? So if you want to do that, you can purchase a reading for me to read your compatibility with Taylor, if that's what you would like to do, as an example, okay? Or maybe somebody else. And by the way, synastry readings or compatibility readings don't just have to be romantic. They can be any kind of connection or relationship with a child, with other family members, with coworkers, with somebody, a couple of different people you're dating, any of those things, okay? So all of that stuff being said, let's get back to the aspects, all right? So aspects, there's 5 major ones. This is the first one we talk about. It's called conjunction. And it doesn't have a color code to it because it doesn't have a line. Why? Because conjunction indicates when placements are within 0 to 10 degrees of each other. Okay? So when that happens, what we're looking at here is different planets that could be literally right next to each other. Like you can see, Mercury is conjunction Saturn. Now, Taylor's placement is first, okay, and then Travis. So Mercury is conjunct to Saturn. So we look out here on the outside edge. Where's Mercury? Here it is. Here's Taylor's Mercury, and there it is. It's in conjunction with Saturn right there. Do you see that? So what can that indicate? Well, when we look at it and when we read it, we can literally read the focus points. So this is communication is blended, because that's what the aspect of conjunction gives you, is blended energy. And so it blends Taylor's communication with Travis's results, which this could really be great for them. This is a positive kind of aspect because it shows that how she communicates can help him get better results. Okay. And that's what he may be looking for. In turn, the results he gets could help her more effectively and efficiently communicate because it is in Capricorn. Okay. Now, the next one that we can look at on here is Mars is conjunct Venus. Now, this is Taylor's Mars, and here's Travis's Venus, and they are boop right next to each other. Okay. So as I was saying before, we could talk about the fact that Mars is your drive. Okay. What you're driven to be doing. And that is blended with his surrender or his vulnerability. So this again can be a very favorable one if it matches in the sense that she's not stepping on his toes with wanting to be in control of the truthfulness of the emotional investigation of their relationship. And he then can feel vulnerable. If he can't feel vulnerable, he won't match with her in that sense. He may feel boxed out. Okay. So while normally it can be a favorable one, it just depends. All right. Because with everything in astrology, everything is a double-edged sword. It can either be a positive thing or a negative thing, depending on how you look at it. That's just how it goes, right? And how you go through life. Because astrology is not an exact science. It's merely the energy or the suggestion of intention. Okay. That's my opinion. So that being said, let's look at this other one right here, which is, I'm sorry, you can't see because we have, I have so many things on here. Hold on, let me pull it up so I can see the PDF a little better because it's hard for me to read it through all the craziness on here. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Where is it? I was looking for the PDF, but I can't find it. Here we go. What? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, here we go. I'll just open the file. So this is what we got going here. The other conjunction that they have is here we go. Taylor's Jupiter and Travis's Jupiter. So here's Taylor's Jupiter right here. It's on the outside edge. Travis is on the inside edge. This is the planet of expansion, luck, things like that. So for both of them, it happens to be in Cancer, which brings them really in-depth emotional capacity. So they can feel very connected really quickly and feel like they help each other grow even. Right? Like the more one expands, the more the other one expands. And this is more of an emotional thing, not a work thing, but an emotional attachment thing. So they both can they can be very attached to each other rather quickly, actually, is what that can indicate. So now let's look at what the next aspect would be, which is what we call sextile. Okay. Now, sextile, these happen to be the purple lines. Okay. Now, not just AstroCharts, which is the site that I use. You can go to the link in my profile. There's a way to get your free one. Okay. He does have a Scorpio Venus, Rebecca. So right here we have their charts again. Again, he is in the center and Taylor is on the outside edge. So when we look at the placement, hers is first, then whatever the aspect is, and then his placement. Excuse me. So for sextile is, my goodness, excuse me, is 60 degrees, okay? So 60 degrees away, it's about 2 signs away. And what it does is it's cooperative, or what I like to call the bestie of the aspects, okay? Because these two things can be independent on their own, but they can cooperate and work well with each other. Okay? So if that's the case, what do we have here? Well, in this time it is Taylor's Mars, right? So her Mars, her drive, again, in Scorpio, so that emotional investigation that she wants to be in control of, well, it's cooperating with how Travis communicates, the details he has. This probably helps her like kind of feel like she's not going to miss any details. It feels more true, more transformative, which is a really great thing. So this is a positive aspect for them. Okay. Now, by the way, I didn't turn on I don't have the generational planets on for this. The generational planets are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So those three are, are generational. They take 8 or more years to go through a sign. They all have them. These three have them the same. But I usually turn them off because they can create more craziness than not, right? So, who's a Scorpio? Well, nobody's a Scorpio. He's a Libra, but he has a Scorpio Venus, and Taylor has a Mars Scorpio. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next one. This one has a few, okay? This one is the square aspect, folks. And the square aspect, like I said, a lot of people think, oh, this means that they're in conflict of some sort. And it can be that. It really can. However, it doesn't always mean that, because with squares, it can sometimes create a friction that has a reaction. Um, and so what's interesting about that is when you do have a lot of squares, it can work out really well because it can show the differences between the two people, right? And how they can get along, and actually how they work together on the different things. Like maybe he doesn't mind taking out the trash and Taylor hates it, as an example. That square could show up on there in a way, and it's fine because it's the conflict that is actually being created is that they don't one doesn't like it and the other one does, but that doesn't necessarily create an issue because it could blend them in a certain kind of way, if that makes sense. So let me say this. There are 4 squares in their chart, okay? And I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about them in the positive and the negative aspects of them, okay? For each, because I think that that's important. I don't ever say that any people can be compatible to a certain degree and any people can be not compatible to a certain degree. So we're all a little crazy. It's whether or not your crazies match. Am I right, folks? Come on now. Okay. So let's look first up here. We have Mercury. So Taylor's Mercury is square to Travis's Mars. So Taylor's Mercury is right here, and here is Travis's Mars up here in Libra. So he has a Mars in Libra, and her Mercury is down here in Capricorn. So they're both cardinal energy. The difference is that hers is structure. Okay, so the structure of how she communicates may be in conflict with the intelligent drive that Travis has. He may be driven, his ego is also involved in it, so he's driven to find balance in things. And for Taylor, that may be more difficult, where she's looking more about efficiency and doesn't necessarily want too much more detail, which Libras would want in order to make a decision, right? So in his drive, he needs to have some balance in order to make a decision what he wants to do. And that can be affected by Taylor's communication, or, right, because she's very about structure, or it could give him structure. The way she communicates could give him structure in his drive. It could show him that he doesn't have to make sure everything is balanced, but that he knows that he will balance it out and to move forward. You know? So that being said, let's go to the next one. The next one we have here is Jupiter. So Taylor's Jupiter out here, okay, her Jupiter is square to his Mars again. So we're still talking about his drive, his balanced drive. And now it's squaring up, and this is also in his natal chart as well, because his Mars is square to his Jupiter as well. Okay? Now that being said, he might find within himself that there is this expansion that his drive is about balance, where his expansion is wanting to know the emotional aspects that are going to happen. Okay, so if Taylor can come in with her expansion of emotion, deep emotional capacity, okay, then she can actually help his drive in a way where she's like, look, I have the emotional capacity here. I can help you with that. And I can help you make sure that you're finding the balance in your emotions when you're trying to make a decision towards what you want to do, your drive in life. Okay. If that makes sense. Now, let's talk about the third one down. Okay. The third one is Taylor's Saturn. So her Saturn is right here. Okay. And it is square to his sun. All right. Saturn is results, Sun is ego. So how she is trying to get results is conflicting with his ego, right? Well, that could be a bad thing. And it sounds like it on the surface because she's trying to get results and it could hurt his feelings. The kind of results that she's looking for, the efficient and effective results, whether it's work, home, any of those things, she wants some structure and efficiency to it. That could drive her crazy when she's dealing with his ego that is always trying to seek balance. All right. It could drive her crazy, like in the sense of being a Capricorn sun, as an example. My relationships with Libra suns. Now, this is two sun signs. This isn't these placements. Okay. But that being said, I'm fine. I get along with Libras fine in a casual or, kind of fun situation. But in a relationship, it's much more difficult for me because I can't personally, as a Capricorn, handle the indecisiveness. It drives me insane. I want to move forward, and Libra energy can sometimes feel like it's holding me back. So that's what I mean for her, because this is extra Capricorn energy with the fact that she has Saturn in Capricorn that's square to his Libra ego. So while that can be a bad thing in some ways, it could also be a good thing, again, because it's helping him find efficiency and be more efficient instead of trying to instead of trying to find balance in every part of his ego. Okay. Um, Try being a Capricorn sun with the Libra moon. Listen, try to be a Capricorn sun with the Sagittarius moon. Okay. I hear you though. But at the same time, we have one more square here, and that is again Taylor Saturn, and it's square to what? His Mars. So basically, again, her efficient results are squared up to his balanced drive. So basically, his drive is negatively affected, so to speak, or in conflict with how Taylor is trying to get results and how she's trying to expand and also how she's trying to communicate. So you can see how those things can either be good or bad. I'm tending to lean towards them having a little bit of conflict when it comes to the separation of their relationship and their careers. Okay. Obviously, football season has just started. And so we saw Taylor at the game and with his mom and all that. And that's very Libra, like, hey, come meet my mom, come whatever. And Sagittarian suns may be a little like, I want to make sure I still have my freedom here. You're going a little too fast for me. You're trying to put a ring on it, and I'm not quite ready for that. So that energy could push her away a little bit. All right. And if she pulls away, his Scorpio Venus is going to be suspect. And now he's going to feel like it's not working out. Now, something that's very interesting is also that they have 0 trines, folks. They don't have any trines. Now, trine is usually within the same element, okay? And it tends to be the elements. There's 4 elements: fire, which is energy, okay? And then we have earth, which is structure, air is intelligence, and water is emotion. So usually trines are favorable because they're showing us a baseline that we have, and it's saying, oh, this baseline is covered, and then here's the focus of that. All right. So Lindsay just asked what a grand trine is. This is something that we call a pattern in astrology. When you have something that's aspected with 3 or more points, it becomes a pattern. A stellium is also a pattern, okay? But a grand trine it takes 3 points, so it has all 3 modes of one particular element, okay? Because again, we have 4 elements, but we have 3 modes. So as an example, cardinal signs are the initiators, okay? They're the ones that start the seasons, like Capricorn, Libra, Cancer, and Aries. And then we have the fixed signs, which take systems and adjust them and spit them back out, being a little bit better, right? If you will. And those are the signs that are immediately after, like Aquarius or my brains are all Taurus, those are the fixed signs, okay? And then you have mutable signs, which are the bow tires. Like as an example, Virgo is the mutable earth sign, and so it wants to finish the structure, okay? Now, in a grand trine, you have a combination of one of each of those, usually in a grand trine. So it shows your like your hidden talent or what you might put to waste if you don't use your hidden talent. So it would give us more information by what the placements are. But yeah, if you're interested in getting a reading from me, make sure you go to the link in my bio on my link tree. There's different kinds of readings that you can get from me, a natal chart reading or a synastry breakdown. And I don't just do celebrities, so make sure you check that out, okay? Yeah, according to Vedic astrology, these two will end awfully, like it'll be fire and then blow up. Yeah. Lindsay, you're welcome. So I kind of almost get that through these as well. So that's trine's energy, and they don't have any trine things. That's not doesn't mean that they're not compatible because of that, but you know. Now, the fifth and final one of these that I want to talk about is opposition. Okay, opposition is push and pull energy. So it basically is like if you feel like it's kind of a friendly competition to be better, using a different part of someone's chart to help the other part of another person's chart get a little better. All right. So here we have Mercury. So Taylor's Mercury, which is in opposition to his Jupiter. Okay. Which is right here. This is his Jupiter on the inside. And what else is in opposition? It's also her Saturn. So both her Mercury and her Saturn are in opposition. This is 180 degrees across from each other, okay? So the energy, again, is push and pull. So that means how she communicates and the results that she's trying to get, it will push and pull with how he expands. So if she goes into a realm that he feels he can expand in, great. If not, it won't do him any good. He'll feel frustrated, in fact, and somewhat limited emotionally by what she's trying to do, because the opposite of these signs is Capricorn. I mean, Capricorn is the sea goat. Goats don't have tear ducts, so the emotion isn't really there, versus Cancer, which is the ultimate in-depth emotional aspects, right? So how he's expanding emotionally can be affected by the fact that he feels like she doesn't have a lot of emotion with how she communicates and the results she's looking for. That could create an issue with them. Now, the other opposition that we see here is is her is Taylor's Jupiter, so out here with his Saturn. So the same kind of principle, but in the opposite direction. Like it might feel like he is too emotional with how he's trying to expand, and it's making her not get the results she wants. Okay. At the same time, how he's expanding could help her get better results, adding emotion to how she's trying to figure out things and life in general. Okay. So basically, my summary, as you may have seen on the post that I just put up, this is my summary for these two. And basically, it says this. The compatibility summary says these two can relate and a lot to one another, which they can. They have a lot of similar placements, born in the same year, things like that. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that what else it says is they seem to have a strong physical connection. Huh? That Mars and Venus energy being next to each other it can be very hot and heavy. And that's kind of what somebody was saying about the Vedic chart, because I use Western Tropical Placidius is my housing system that I use. So when we're talking about that, it's similar in the sense that it kind of seems like it's very fire and passionate. And if they have other things to back that up, that could be a successful relationship. The problem is I don't really see that here, because along with the strong physical connection, there's emotional maturity that they have. And thank you so much, Tony. So are you the band Tony 2020? Because that would be amazing, by the way. Um, sure. If he loses the Super Bowl, she would absolutely be blamed for that, as they do in football. When certain star players start dating people, it can affect how they're playing, and people will take note of that. And this can be something that Taylor hates, because it's not like she doesn't get enough of this already. Okay, so that's part of what I've seen as an issue for them. Because it's in here, it also continues on starting up there. However, their careers will often cause issues for both of them. Having to choose between what you do for a living or the person you love is a tough sell to anybody, right? So are they ready for it? Little Taylor thing there, but I mean, are they? I don't know. I mean, what do you all think? Do you think that this is going to be a successful match? Do you think that they'll be able to do this? Because I'm not so sure. Um, I think that um, I know that there's a lot of Gaylor folks out there who we don't want this to be successful for other reasons, I'm sure. There we go. See, there's somebody right there that says no, I believe in Gaylor. So do I see it lasting, to answer your question? I can't really get a read on them. No, I don't. I see it being hot and heavy at the beginning. Like they'll try to go slow because he's a Libra, right? But really it'll be a little hot and heavy and it'll fizzle out pretty quick. That's how I feel. I think she'll break up with him eventually. The business, maybe I don't know about for love. Beard. You think he's a beard? Really? Beard folks, for those of you who may not know what a beard is, in queer culture, sometimes back in the day, um, men and women would get married, even though they were queer or homosexual in some way, shape, or form, to bring off the association that they weren't. And we call that a beard. That's their beard. Um, can you make a request, Soph? Sure, go for it. What you got? Meh, she's an artist. He needs a muse, angst, and love to write a new album. The Player. You think so? That's going to be the new album called The Player. Sorry, I'm doing that so I can read what y'all are writing. I'm by and I believe being happy for Taylor, no matter what, I'm sure. Yeah. Is Taylor a Scorpio rising? I think so, but we aren't 100% sure of her birth time. She's either a Scorpio rising, and I've also seen Capricorn rising for Taylor. But I get more Scorpio rising for her because of her emotional investigation, especially within her writing and things like that. So, yeah. I gave them, their ranking is a 6 out of 10. So, do you believe that they're being happy for Taylor as long as the other person is making her happy? Yeah, absolutely. Her moon, actually, let me go back to this one for you guys so you can see. Her moon is right here, by the way, but I'll show you on the, here's theirs. This has their placements on it, folks, so you can see their individual placements, if you will. So you can see that. But so for you still there? Because you said you wanted to ask something and then I missed it. Um, her moon, by the way, is Cancer. She has a Cancer moon. My new partner, because I don't know his birth time. We can still do a synastry without the birth times, okay? Dying for someone to do their charts. Hey, thank you. You're welcome. She and I share the same moon, Cancer sign. Well, and honestly, having a Cancer moon means you have quite the emotional depth already. So maybe that's where she gets her emotional depth from. Maybe she's not a Scorpio rising, but yeah, yeah, their Venuses are not a good match for them. Uh, Except for the fact that her Venus, even though it's in Aquarius, happens to be, I mean, her Venus, her Mars, because it's in, sorry, his Venus happens to be the same as her Mars, so it could help, you know? Are Sag and Libra good together in general? Like, synastry is way more than the sun signs. If you take just the sun signs, Sag and Libra are not very compatible in a lot of ways. However, people tend to say fire and air are compatible because of their independence and their intelligence, right? Libras are about intelligence, but they're about fairness and justice. Sagittarius are about learning more and experiencing more in order to gain their intelligence. So his light, let his light it on. He wants kids. She came along, thinks she wants someone enduring too. It could happen. I mean, it could, you know, but I don't think so. Are Libra and Cancer good together? Now, this is an interesting conversation because Libra and Cancer, that's an interesting one. Balance, and they're both cardinal signs. So, Libra tends to lead with the intelligence. Cancer is going to tend to lead with emotion. That could make Libra a little nervous and a little intimidated, but it could work absolutely. Any sign combination can work, folks. To be honest with you. If the couple's rising sun, oh, sorry, I missed that. If the couple's rising signs are sister signs, is that good? Now, when you say sister signs, do you mean opposition signs? What do you mean by sister signs? Do you mean same mode, same element? What's your definition of that? Yeah, I want the chart for me and my husband because you're Sag and Libra, but work perfect. Then yeah, like Dr. Pepper, let's do a reading. Let's do a synastry summary reading even. You don't have to do the full synastry reading chart, but let's do a summary reading. So check the link in my bio and let's check it out because I would be interested to see that. Um, you're welcome. Thank you all for the gifts. So nice. Yeah. What is the stellium? Someone just asked. A stellium is when you have three or more of these placements that we're talking about here in the same sign or in the same house. Okay. The placements that don't count for that are your ascendant and your MC. The reason why they don't count is your ascendant is always in the first house because it starts your chart, and your MC is always on the cusp of the 10th house. Okay. However, However, um, some astrologers say that the sun and the moon don't count. That is not true. They absolutely count because if you think about it, any more of these focus points that you have in a central located area, the better. Okay. What does it mean? How help? Does this mean that they're compatible or not? They're not that compatible, to be honest with you. Like I don't like woo about them. They're 6 out of 10, so a little better than 50% chance. Um. Oh, okay. I'm hearing you have Sag in almost all of my houses. Well, you don't have Sag in your houses, but I have a lot of Sag placements as well. So we should do a reading. Maybe we should just do a natal chart reading, and then we can talk about you and your husband. Um, you guys need help. Go outside. Okay. Bye. Clarissa got herself blocked. That's what happened right there. Um, they both out a 6 year relationship fairly recently. That's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting, and it could be that they are both in this for the rebound aspects of it, and maybe a little more happens because, like I said, I feel like her meeting his mom. That's interesting. Um, how do you find? Oops, sorry, somebody said. How do you find your circle chart? There's a link in my bio. So if you go to my page, my link tree to get a free natal chart, and you have to put your information in to get it. If you don't know your time of birth, you don't necessarily need it. However, it will default to noon on astro charts. So just heads up about that. But yeah, that's how you can get your round chart. I know that CoStar folks, I know a lot of you use CoStar. It's not necessarily the best for a lot of reasons, but it does have a couple of things. And they do have a round chart that you can look at now. Just make sure that it is on the right housing system because some people have it on a different one and they're like, wait, this says I'm a Scorpio rising, but I'm a Sag rising, and so on. So just look out for that. Okay. But that's how you can get your round chart. This is called a natal chart or an astrology chart. I've seen people say they're soulmates because one's Mars is Scorpio and the other's Venus is a Scorpio. Yeah, that's true. They do have that. The problem is that's not going to necessarily have staying power. So while that Mars and Scorpio, and he is the Venus of that. So his vulnerability and her drive are similar, but I use Placidius as my housing system. And that's Western or tropical style. But that being said, I feel like it's going to burn out fairly quickly. So, um, yes, it does. Taylor Saturn placement being Capricorn, but honestly, so is his. His is also in Capricorn. His Saturn placement. Let me put their chart, their synastry up back behind me here. So I just saw a lot of people on the thing that I posted here, explaining their charts a little bit. I noticed that people were asking to have it explained, so I wanted to hop on here and explain it a little bit. So I hope that this helped. I know that you all can't rewatch this live on here, so what I will do is I will upload it to my YouTube channel. So the link for that is also in my bio. I will post it here when it's ready. It takes it'll probably be up tomorrow. So if you want to watch it again, you will be able to do so on my YouTube channel. Again, if you're interested in getting an astrology reading from me, please also go to the link in my profile. I do natal chart readings, which is you individually. It comes with a 7-page PDF where I break it down and walk you through this. Okay. So the way I do astrology is the number one thing is we don't have any gender identity specific in any of it. And the other part is that I'm trying to teach how to read your chart and other people's charts as well, because I feel like, it helps. I love it, you know? Um, so there's astrology readings where I read just your regular chart and it's 7-page PDF breaks it down. Then we walk through it on a video chat. There's also a full synastry reading, which is where each person gets a mini read of their chart and then your compatibility. But there's also something called a synastry summary, which is exactly like this, where I break it down and you get it. You get like a little summary of the things. Hey, thanks, Danny. Um, so if you're interested in any of that, please go to that and check that out. There's also if you just want to tip me, you can do that as well. So just go to my link tree and check that out, explore a little bit. There's some fun calculators on there as well. And yeah, and please, make sure, okay, we'll do Danny. So, and make sure that you get to see all this stuff. What was I just going to say though? Anything else? No, I think that's it. So I try to go live on here like once a week or so. Next time we'll probably do more education about charts. Stay tuned for Doja Cat Scarlet placements. And instead of giving the song signs, I'm actually going to associate the songs with her placements. So which part of her chart is shining through in which song? So stay tuned for that. That's coming out soon. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoys their weekend and that you're taking care of yourselves. All right. So please stay safe, take care of yourselves and each other. Okay. And I will see you all soon. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I love all of you. Cheers.